Picture this, January 11th, 1982, North Yorkshire, England. It is 4:30 in the morning, and Britain is holding its breath. The wind screams across open moorland at over 50 miles per hour, slicing through clothes, skin, and bone. Snow does not fall gently. It is hurled sideways like gravel. Temperatures have plunged to -10 degrees Celsius, and with the wind chill, it feels far colder. Street lamps glow faintly through swirling white chaos, barely illuminating roads that no longer look like roads at all. Cars are entombed beneath snowdrifts taller than garden walls. Front doors are frozen shut. Power lines sag under the weight of ice. Somewhere, a milk bottle lies abandoned, half buried, already frozen solid. Inside their homes, families wake to silence. No traffic, no trains, no distant hum of normal life. Only the low howl of the wind and the creaking of houses under pressure they were never designed to endure. This is not an ordinary winter morning. This is the moment Britain realizes it is facing something far worse. The winter of 1982 has arrived in full force, and it will test the country in ways few could have imagined. Only days earlier, Britain looked entirely different. The end of December 1981 passed quietly. There was frost, yes, but nothing unusual. Buses ran on time. Shops were full ahead of the new year. Children returned to school in early January with wet shoes and red cheeks, not fear. Meteorologists noticed a developing high-pressure system forming over Scandinavia. Arctic air was being pulled westward, but forecasts did not yet signal disaster. Winters were cold in Britain. People were used to it. Then, during the first week of January 1982, everything changed. A powerful blocking pattern locked freezing air over the British Isles. Instead of moving on, the cold stayed and strengthened. Atlantic weather systems collided with this frozen air mass, creating the perfect conditions for relentless snowfall. On January 7th, snow began falling across Scotland and northern England. By January 9th, it was clear this was no passing shower. Temperatures dropped day after day. Roads became treacherous. Rural communities started to worry. Still, few imagined what lay ahead. The turning point came when the snow stopped being measured in inches and started being measured in feet. By January 10th, the first true wave hit. Northern England, Scotland, and parts of Wales were buried under continuous snowfall. In Cumbria and North Yorkshire, drifts reached 6 to 10 feet deep. Motorways became impassable. The M62, one of the country's major arteries, was closed for long stretches. Trains stalled. Hundreds of passengers were stranded overnight in carriages with failing heating systems. Some had no food. Others shared flasks, sandwiches, and quiet determination. Schools closed by the thousands. By mid-January, over 10,000 schools across Britain had shut their doors. Parents improvised childcare. Children turned streets into sledding runs. Emergency services struggled. Ambulances crawled through snow-choked streets or stopped altogether. Doctors and nurses walked miles to reach hospitals. In rural villages, people realized they were completely cut off. Electricity failed in many areas as ice snapped power lines. In some regions, households went without power for up to 5 days. Candles flickered in living rooms. Radios became lifelines. Britain was not prepared for what came next. And the cold had not yet reached its worst. The peak arrived in mid-January, and it was merciless. Temperatures fell even further. In parts of Scotland, thermometers recorded -20 degrees Celsius overnight. Rivers froze solid. Lakes turned into sheets of glass. Snow compacted into ice so hard it broke shovels. Livestock suffered terribly. Farmers reported the loss of thousands of sheep, buried alive in drifting snow or frozen where they stood. In remote areas, helicopters were used to drop feed to animals stranded on hillsides. Human stories unfolded everywhere. In one Yorkshire village, elderly residents were found trapped inside homes with no heating and no food. Neighbours dug tunnels through snow to reach them. In cities, homeless shelters overflowed as the cold turned deadly. Hospitals filled with cases of hypothermia and frostbite. Fingers blackened. Skin cracked and bled. Every breath outside burned the lungs. The soundscape of Britain changed. Snow absorbed noise. Streets were eerily silent. When wind rose, it roared like a living thing. Ice cracked in gutters and pipes. Roofs groaned under weight. The country was locked in ice. For many, this was the harshest winter they would ever experience. And yet, something remarkable happened. Britain pulled together. Neighbours who had never spoken before knocked on each other's doors. People shared food, firewood, and batteries. Young men helped clear paths for the elderly. Children delivered milk on sleds when vans could not pass. The army was called in to assist in the worst-hit regions. Soldiers cleared roads, delivered supplies, and rescued stranded motorists. Local councils set up emergency shelters in schools and community halls. Despite the hardship, moments of joy appeared. Children built snow forts taller than themselves. Streets became playgrounds. People laughed at their own frozen breath. Radios played music late into the night as families gathered around fires and candles. In pubs, stories were exchanged. "Do you remember '63?" older voices asked, comparing winters across generations. In the darkness and cold, Britain rediscovered something old-fashioned and powerful: shared endurance. By early February 1982, the grip began to loosen. Temperatures rose slowly. Snow softened, then melted. Roads reopened. Trains resumed service. The familiar sounds of traffic returned, almost strange after weeks of silence. But the damage was clear. Infrastructure repairs ran into millions of pounds. Farms faced devastating losses. Some communities took months to fully recover. Pipes burst. Buildings cracked. Memories lingered. Yet the winter left behind more than destruction. It left stories, lessons, a reminder of nature's power and human resilience. For those who lived through it, the winter of 1982 became a reference point. A yardstick. Cold like '82, people would say for decades afterward. It was a winter that slowed the country, stripped life down to essentials, and revealed what mattered most. Today, the winter of 1982 lives on in memory. In old photographs. In yellowed newspaper clippings. In stories told by grandparents who still remember the silence, the snowdrifts, and the way Britain stood still. It was brutal. It was unforgiving. But it was also a moment when communities found strength in each other. If you lived through Britain's winter of 1982, share your memories in the comments. What do you remember most? The cold? The snow? Or the way people came together? And if you enjoy revisiting Britain's forgotten moments, its hardships and its quiet triumphs, consider subscribing to Britain Rewind. Because history is not just dates and events. It is lived, it is remembered, and it deserves to be revisited.